Blue Beetle restarts the DC universe. Scott Pilgrim takes on the animation, and Miyazaki's new movie is being a movie. All that and more today on Breaking Geek Radio.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, the premier flagship. And I honestly don't feel like I should be hosting this podcast. I feel like Jammer should be hosting this podcast because, ladies and gentlemen, I think we got him. We finally have a Latino superhero leading a film in the DC universe. And like, I feel like, you know, as a person who's not part of that community, I kind of want to just pass it to Jam. Do you want it, Jammer? Do you want me to hand this? Would you like?
I mean, sure. On. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, yeah, we got some Blue Beetle to discuss. Oh, you're just waiting till you can run back there to get. No, you're on air button.
I'm gonna hand you the on air thing, and then you can.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool if I pulled and I actually had an on air button? That would have blown my mind if we had set that up in advance. We should have done that next time.
Should have done that next time.
Blue Beetle is an interesting movie. This is a film that started out as a Max original. And then it got reversed Batgirl. Instead of being canceled, it got pulled from streaming into theatrical release as soon as around the time David Zaslav came over and took over Warner Brothers. Yeah, Warner Brothers, and just overall business stuff. And then so it seemed to convey a bit of confidence that in the film and what it could do for the DC brand. And beyond that, James Gunn, who now runs the DC universe along with Peter Safran, has said on multiple occasions that this is technically the first movie in the new DC universe. It's not, his movie per se. His first movie going forward is going to be Superman Legacy, but this is still within that same universe. I still don't know what the hell to make of Aquaman. But I guess Aquaman technically still is, because according to The Flash, Aquaman is the same across universes, so who knows? So anyways, Blue Beetle. Is this a solid start for the DC universe? And is it a solid start as, the first live action, I'll say, Latino superhero? Not gonna lie, the trailers were kind of lackluster. I wanted to like it, but nothing about it seemed to be crazy good. The buzz wasn't great. It had some pretty dismal box office projections. So in some, let's see here, according to Box Office Pro, let's see here, this film is currently aiming for $22 to $32 million its opening weekend. Not fantastic. The movie itself, I believe, had a $120 million budget, give or take. So we'll see. It has a chance to supplant Barbie as the dominant force at the box office, but is it good enough to do that? We will talk about that, but first things first, we need to, do our normal spiel when it comes to reviewing these movies, and that has to do with Rotten Tomatoes, which has been a nice, pleasant surprise, because honestly, I was a little concerned with this movie because they didn't start coming out until I think Wednesday evening or so. It felt pretty late. So I was thinking, even though there was some positive buzz on social media, I wasn't sure what to make of it. But as of right now, as of this recording, which is Friday, it is sitting at a solid 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is certified fresh, has 125 reviews, so it'll probably hover around there. When it first started coming out, it was closer to the low 80s, but, relatively solid. And the general consensus is led by Xolo Maridueña's magnetic performance in the title role. Blue Beetle is a refreshingly family-focused superhero movie with plenty of humor and heart. Jonesy, what is your X review for Blue Beetle?
I feel like Blue Beetle answers the question, what if Venom were a good movie? So I think...
Oh, that's interesting. I did not even think about that. No, I like that.
They even used the word symbiote that's movie. Like, hey, that's right. Yeah. They did. And one's a killer. And he's like, hey, I'm not a killer. And it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to kill anymore. I think the other easy analogy is, what if Iron Man was a kid? I I agree with everything you said about the trailers and all the promo stuff. I wasn't really feeling this, but based on what I've seen from Zolo and Cobra Kai and things of that nature, like I was interested. Like I wanted this to succeed, just based on his performance in that. And anything George Lopez is as on, I'm like, whatever, I'm there. And then I found out that Susan Sarandon was the bad gal in this, and I was like, all right. I feel like, as Nick would say, we got a stew going, right? Like there's some stuff in here that makes me want to see this. And so when Larice was like, hey, let's go see this movie, I was like, all right, I guess we're gonna go see this movie. I think that it's relatively derivative, right? I think it's very easy to plot out how this movie is going to go. But what they really succeeded at is letting the focus be on the family and letting the focus be on Jaime. And that makes all the difference in the world, right? You can very easily point to like a hero's journey or stories that are the same or stories that are similar. But, what you're able to mix in with it, especially with this film, and letting the focus be on the family, letting the focus be on Jaime, you come out with a story that's different than Venom, that's different than Iron Man. Those movies can't be this movie. I think that really helped this movie succeed in a way that I wasn't expecting. So I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and give it a solid A.
Oh, wow. Solid A. Impressive.
Solid A.
Okay.
I was laughing. I was giggling. My kids were crying. I was into it. I was into it from start to finish.
All right, Larice, you're up. Follow up that A with whatever you're going to give it. I'm ready.
I'm going to give it an A-, but only because I had a really hard time digesting, processing Susan Sarandon as a bad guy. That just hurt my little heart to see her be such a bitch.
A mean girl.
Can I say that?
But
Am I
she was so good at it.
Such a bitch.
She was so good at it.
Really, I mean, she's good at everything, but she just, it's such a huge contrast from the actual person that she is, that it definitely shows her range as an actor and what she's like truly capable of, because she did it so well, but she was so horrible. Yeah, so she was just a horrible human being, from my perspective. So I love this story. I think my Twitter, my X review, it is fun for the whole family, hilarious, heartwarming, and action-packed. And like Brandon said, like the focus was definitely on the family, which was probably the best part of it for me. I had quite a few moments where I just laughed out loud at some of the things that I remember from being around other Latinx families and stuff in my youth, and the language and stuff that they use with one another, and the interactions, family interactions, and that sense of family, the importance and focus on family, and also welcoming other people from outside the family into the family. Like, you're okay. A little standoffish at first, but we'll let you in if you're cool. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Like Brandon said, the kids were crying, although they were probably a little tired, but it kept all of us laughing and crying and engaged the entire time. So it was great.
Cool. So my review, I feel weird. I think I'm going to give it the lowest rating of all of us.
I knew you were going to do that.
What?
So no, I think the movie is great. So, but as you mentioned, it is largely derivative. You can pretty much like lay out how everything's going to do, but they fill it with a lot of great, unique aspects to it that make it feel different. So even though it has the same backbone, like all the stuff on top of it feels different. It has a little bit of Iron Man, but I actually, based on the trailers, expected it to feel a lot more like Iron Man than it did. It actually felt a lot more like its own thing because of its focus on the family unit. You talked about Iron Man and Venom. Iron Man and Venom, they largely went through this alone. Yep. Jaime does not go through this remotely alone. It is through and through it is a group effort. Without feeling also, it kind of a mix between Iron Man, Shazam, and Ant-Man.
Yeah.
like kind of a mix between those three. So Iron Man because of the suit. What was the second one I said?
Shazam.
Shazam because of the family aspect. Though I feel like the way they incorporated the family in here, I like a bit more. And then the third one, which I'm vamping because I don't quite remember what my third one was. The third one was Ant-Man, because of certain things that happen later on that we will hold off on for spoilers. But overall, I really enjoyed the Latino aspects of the story. It was a feeling I haven't had in a theater since I saw Spy Kids. Where you just like, because I remember when I saw Spy Kids, it didn't dawn on me like, oh yeah, I don't see these types of things in theaters ever. And honestly, I didn't really notice it until like going back. I'm like, oh yeah, I think that was the last time I saw like a Latino family thing in theaters that was for the whole family. I mean, I guess Paranormal Activity 5 or whatever one that was. I forget which one it was. That was also interesting. But yeah, like that whole family dynamic, it felt very real.
What about
like the
Spider-Man?
part that I started. What
about Across the
live
Spider-Verse?
action? No, it didn't
sorry.
feel. I mean, they had the Latin aspect, but the Latin family aspect, and just some of the little things they did. That like when the grandma like told Jaime to come there so she could do like the freaking sign of the cross on him.
Mm-hmm.
My mom does that all the time, and I've never seen that in a movie before. And that touched me in places, I will say. So like they had a lot of little moments like that throughout the movie that I didn't expect. But yeah, overall it was a little derivative. It felt a little long. That third act goes on for days in my mind. To me, it felt like it went on for days. And Jaime was kind of perfect. He had no flaws. He had no arc. And unless we could talk about it, I'm interested to talk about that. Not that it's like he has to, like he kind of changed the symbiote to him. He kind of Wallied it, where it's usually about people or a thing changing them, but we talk about more of that in the spoilers. So I give it a B+, solid movie. I really like it. It meant a lot, but a little bit long and a smidge derivative.
Yeah. Okay. You guys ready to jump into some spoilers?
Yes.
All
right, let's
so
do
I can
it.
dig a little bit deeper into the thing I was just talking about, which is how he had no arc. When he made a point to put on his graduation hat, I was just waiting for a reveal that he actually didn't graduate or something.
Wow.
Or waiting
Yeah.
for something. Like something, because he literally had no flaws. He kind of felt like a character where it's just like, oh well, he's the first Latin superhero, so we can't give him any flaws. Because is there anything wrong with him?
Well,
Does he
I
learn anything?
I think the arc almost went the other way though, because he was so perfect, but at some point when the bad guy is like really challenging him and has done so much damage to his family, he goes the opposite way. He gets real dark there for a second, and the symbiote has to bring him back to this like the good side. Who he really is, and remind him who he really is. And I think it did that in a couple of different ways. So it starts speaking Spanish, which I thought was really cool.
I thought that was so
like,
cool. Yeah.
It was fantastic how they wove that in there, and they show how much they're really meshing with one another. But also like he's about to kill this guy, and he's like, no,
deservedly so. That guy deserves to die as
wait
fuck.
a minute. I mean, he deserved to die probably, but at the same time, like that's not who he is, and there were other ways to do it, right? So,
and I love how that happened too, right? She said, "We are not killers," which was great. In the beginning was, "I'm not a killer," and then she says at the end, "We're not killers." And so I agree with what Larissa's saying when we talk about, does he have an arc or is he perfect? I think he is a very good character, like a good person. And I think what they tried to do is just rob him of his optimism, which is the thing that had driven him that far into the film. And so, it's a different kind of arc. And I enjoyed what I saw though.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember because I had that thought too, where it's like we're not killers. I'm like, oh, he had an arc. I'm like, wait, that wasn't his arc. That was what is the thing called? Shada?
Something like that. I
Something like
forget.
that. Shada arc, and but also like you mentioned, where he kind of loses weight for a brief second and then comes back. But yeah, it felt weird because I was just waiting for something. I'm like, what is his deal? Why you're making like because I don't think he makes a single decision in that movie that like a normal person wouldn't make.
Well, he doesn't make any decisions without his family, I think, for the most part, or without um ultimately then without the symbiote for a
Mm-hmm.
backup. And again, that kind of goes back to his family, like it becoming more like him. And so him being like the rest of his family, he couldn't do it. So I I liked it. I liked the way that it was done. It made sense to me. And again, it might have been like a downward arc, if that's a thing. Like we always think of it going like up and you're like growing or something. But I think it was grounding more than anything else. He finally felt grounded and he found his purpose. So that was
Yeah.
all tied in there together.
So
Which
I
is the
went
other part of
to
his arc.
I've grown up or grown up. Yeah, I've basically decided I'm an adult now. And because I'm an adult, if I need to go pee in the
Congratulations.
middle of the movie, I'm just gonna get up and go. I got up and went at an inopportune time because when I came back, they were in
Oh
the middle of the
no.
Beetle cave. Um,
Yeah.
Oh,
so what in those first minute and a half of the Beetle cave, what was up? What happened there? How did that come about?
So wait, which part? So she just took them to the house. So they basically took him to Wayne
Was
Manor.
there any
Um,
exposition about
no,
who
so
he
what I
was?
loved about this so what I loved about this was they maintained the canonical, like Ted Kord is the Blue Beetle first, and he didn't have the powers or anything like that. So like if you go back to the 90s, maybe even before that, like that's who Blue Beetle was before he became Jaime Reyes with the powers. And so like if you read, like he's pretty prominent in the Death of Superman, which was kind of cool because you got to see the suit that he was wearing way back then, and where his eye was cracked. I don't know if you could see. It looked almost exactly like it did in the Death of Superman. So what they did was they gave some exposition to help you understand, like, no, Ted Kord was the Blue Beetle. He had all of this equipment, he had all of this stuff, and like all of that stuff was always true in the comic books, which is kind of fun. And if we're talking about how this film integrates into the new kind of James Gunn universe, I like this idea that these heroes have always existed. So like in this film, he mentioned Superman. So in my head,
And Batman.
given what did he mention Batman?
George
I
Lopez
don't
said
think he.
Batman's a
Oh, he says a
fascist.
fascist. Yeah, he
Oh,
says a
fascist.
fascist. Yeah. Um, I like that idea that these people already existed in this universe. And so that's a lot of fun that they're giving Ted Kord that, like this is a character that always existed in this universe. So that's kind of what you missed with that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't miss a whole lot. Like I missed part of it. I think I came in when literally he's like, Batman's a fascist. That's about when I came in.
Yeah.
It was interesting how
Uh,
they wove some of that in there too, where they like call out certain other characters. So there was the Brandon said the she takes him into Wayne Manor or the Bat Cave, right? And so he also at one point is wearing a Gotham University law
yes, I saw that.
Yep.
hoodie in there. So
It's a little
yeah, they
premature, a little pre-law.
Pre-law.
pre-law, yeah,
Yeah, a little
pre-law.
I thought
premature.
it was funny what his sister said, where she was like, "Do you need any pre-lawyers?" That was really funny.
She was awesome. I loved her. She was great.
She was great. She was really great. I meant to go look
Oh,
up her name too because I when they said it initially, I chuckled because I was like, that's the name of a tequila. And that was what stuck out for me. I was like, I have to remember what that name actually
What milagro?
means. Milagro. Yeah.
That means it means a miracle.
mm,
Oh, yeah, I associated
Which
it
is
with
funny because at
tequila.
first I thought it was a pet name for the grandma to call her that, but
mhm.
then I realized that was just her name.
That was her
Yeah,
name.
no, it's just her name. No, her nickname was
Um,
Millie. I kept hearing them call her Millie, but um, yeah. There's
That's
a
cool.
delicious tequila out there with this by the same name. Just saying.
That's
It's
a good
great.
name.
You should
That's
try
a
it.
good name to get there for.
I like that we got a LexCorp shout out in this as well. That was a fun little Easter egg.
I missed that.
It's
What was that?
so when you see Cord Tower directly behind Cord Tower is actually right after you see him in the Gotham Law hoodie. The next scene you see Cord Tower, because remember that's where he's going to meet her. Behind that is LexCorp Tower.
Oh,
Missed
that's
it.
what you were reacting to. I missed that. I don't know what
I was
I was
reacting
looking
to
at,
it.
but
There were a couple things in like fast sequence that those were two
Mhm.
things that happened real quick. Yeah, those are fun. I like that.
This is
Um,
definitely a movie I think I would try to watch again to pick up on more of that stuff because I do think that there were a lot of things like that.
did you guys ever watch The Guyver?
No.
Or are you familiar with it? This had very strong Guyver vibes to it, which I liked. Like I appreciate. Like if you ever go back and watch that original Mark Hamill film, or watch the second one with David Hayter, or if you watch the anime, like you'll get to see like where there's some of this. Like especially if you watch the anime, because it is about kids that basically have. It's not a scarab, but it looks very much like this, and it attaches itself to their bodies, and it comes out of their body and protects them, and it won't let them die. Very much in the same way as this. So like I really like that. I don't know if some of it was intentional, but to me that really stood out to me in this film. Speaking of which, like I really really enjoyed that first transformation scene. Like that was absolutely hilarious.
It was.
I
It was
almost hurt
horrifying
myself
because
laughing.
I just imagine like the sister being like, "Oh my god, I just killed my brother because I forced him to open up the freaking belly burger carton." And
So
people are just
good.
throwing it around. I'm just like, put it down. You don't know. The thing looks like it's really expensive. Like I would have not touched it based on that alone.
It was so good. And then I love the part when it disappeared. And I was like, I think it went in his ass. And George Lopez, it went in his ass.
That was so funny because you said it. I heard you say it right before George Lopez was like, it went in his ass. And I was like, oh my
And
gosh.
then later on, Jaime was like, no, it didn't go in my ass.
Yes, it did.
We had a good chuckle too at one point when he was upside down, which was like a because it was fresh in our minds the TMNT when they
Oh,
were
yeah.
getting milked.
Getting milked. Yeah.
Yeah.
We Kirsten and I were watching something earlier this week, and at one point that someone was tied down. I'm like, they're getting milked. Like I've been thinking that constantly since watching TMNT.
And our kids said the
It
same
was
thing. They were
great.
like, oh, he's getting milked. This movie's hilarious.
Anyways, I think this movie is great. I think it's great for representation. I definitely want to see it continue more. Hopefully, its inevitable box office bomb isn't gonna hurt its chances of future movies or at least future involvement with the DC universe. Hopefully, James Gunn has enough sway with as co-CEO to basically say, "Hey, this wasn't on us, yo. You gotta let us build. I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly on this one." And that they let him fly.
I think we can talk more about this and don't necessarily have to be in spoilers because there are two more things I'd like to talk to you all about. If you guys are done with spoilers, what do you think?
What are they related to? If what
So
would be
the first
time
one,
code
so
for
you
this?
mentioned James Gunn. And the first one would be like what he has said about the future of Blue Beetle. And then the other one is talking about, how this film is going to do, the fact that there are Latino groups that wanted the stars of the film to be able to talk about this film, but based on the strike, they couldn't. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it, I guess, like
okay.
the performance and then future of the DC universe.
Yeah. So one of the things that James Gunn said, and I'm kind of interested in this, he said, I can't wait for audiences to meet Jaime Reyes, who will be an amazing part of the DCU going forward. So unlike The Flash, he wasn't bullshitting us, which I appreciate. And the thing is, I'm worried about, sorry, I almost watched Jammer die.
It's all good. You want to see a grown man choke on peanut butter?
Nope.
Mentioned James Gunn fucking lying to us. So I'm really worried about how this film is going to do, right? We've seen, like Kyle talked about, the projections a couple of weeks ago, and I feel like they've fluctuated wildly. I don't know how much of a difference it makes for stars to go out and promote movies. I really don't. I can't tell, because I've gotten to the point in my life where if I never see anybody on television talking about a movie or on Graham Norton or wherever, I'm still going to see the movie if I'm interested in it. So I'm really curious what you guys think. Because like I said, there were like 27 Latino groups that issued this letter. They were like, hey, this is a film about that has a ton of representation there, from the directors to the writers to the actors, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. This is a film that deserves to be seen. And they're worried that based on the strike that's happening, that won't happen. So I'm really curious. Do you guys think that will make a difference? The fact that these stars aren't out there pushing this film?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Because maybe you don't need to be convinced by a star, but having all of those interviews gives it more opportunity to at least be front of mind. Most people, like, it's just they're busy with their lives. It's like, unless something is constantly in front of them, they may not just say, like, you know what, let's go see this movie. It just might not be on their radar, and they just might find other things to do. So maybe they're not being convinced, but it's just they're constantly being inundated to the point where they're like, that's fine. Let's do this thing. So I think it will make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I know I saw. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with that. I think for this movie in particular, and I could be totally wrong because I'm, again, like, not part of the community, but even just from like studying Spanish, I would watch the talk shows to practice listening to Spanish. So I would imagine that if talk shows are still kind of popular and the stars went on those talk shows to talk about the movie in, different in Spanish and in English, that would help to promote the movies. Or help to promote the movie. I don't know if other movies really work that way, because I heard from a lot of friends that they did not see anything about the Barbie movie promoted, and I saw it everywhere. So I don't know how people are consuming TV anymore, if they're paying attention to talk shows. I saw the Barbie cast on Kelly Clarkson, like Issa Rae and Margot Robbie, America Ferrera, like all of them, all like the major Barbies were on her show. But I don't know how many people watch that. But I still think that it would make a difference.
So to your point about how people consume television, there was a report that came out just this week that talked about linear television viewing has dropped 50%. So streaming has just soared through the roof. And so that is now the predominant way that people consume things, right? So like for years, our kids have kind of been that way, where they think commercials are weird, and now they think the commercials are amazing because it's not something they've ever experienced. So now there's evidence of the fact that, at least in America, television broadcast and cable viewing makes up less than 50% of television usage this past July. So, that almost makes me wonder the same question, like, will it matter that these people aren't on broadcast and cable news if half of the audience isn't watching it anymore? That's not where the eyes are, or at least half of them.
But they could be on like YouTube channels that have those things.
Yeah.
That too. Yeah, I will definitely watch anything where they're playing with puppies. I love that little.
Like, are they still doing like Wired interviews and stuff? Because I seen like some Wired interviews drop for like One Piece, but when did they record those? And did they record Blue Beetle ones? I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? I'll be disappointed if this doesn't do well. But what I would really like to see is, will DC be willing to stick with it? That 79% is pretty good. Manny from the site gave it an A-. Most of us on this podcast gave it a pretty good review. So I'd really like to see. I give it a good
rating. It's a B+. That's solid.
Whatever. I'd really like to see DC just stick with it, right? This is a tough time, generally speaking, and I hope they understand that, the fact that these folks, if that is the reason that they can't push and promote this film well, could be an exception. So,
is that all you wanted to move on? Or was there another aspect you wanted to talk about?
Nah, I'm fine. Those were the two.
All right, cool. Well,
those were the two things.
Well, we have a trailer. We are gonna be reacting to Scott Pilgrim, the new Scott Pilgrim anime series coming to Netflix. And in all full transparency, I've seen the trailer before, but Brandon and Larice have not seen the trailer, so they are fresh and ready to go to experience this new take. Before we do that, though, what are your all? Jonesy, I know you like Scott Pilgrim. Is that correct? Right.
So I loved the movie when it came out.
Okay. This is producer Kyle. Everyone is frozen right now. Give me a moment and I'll be trying to get them back.
Just go.
Okay, Jonesy.
Yo.
Tell me about your exposure to Scott Pilgrim.
Oh man. Let me tell you about my exposure. I like Scott Pilgrim. So based on having watched the movie, I love the soundtrack. So I listened to that over and over. I started reading a comic book based on the film. I don't think the film had finished. I'm sorry, I don't think the comic book had finished.
The film,
by the time.
I think the film finished, but they didn't incorporate the actual ending of the comic, which was weird.
Yeah, it was. And so bought multiple t-shirts. When I started playing guitar, like one of the first songs I learned on playing guitar was from the movie. It was the song Ramona. I love that song. And played the video game. So I just, there's something about this universe I just really, really enjoy. So,
Larice?
I can confirm that he really, really loves it. I too have watched him play the video game. I don't think I ever played the video game. I definitely have seen the movie because of him. And yeah, it's not something that I think that I would watch more than once, but I for some reason I feel like that's probably still on DVD somewhere in the house, maybe.
Oh my God.
We were still dating, I think, when we watched that together. It was one of our lazy Saturday afternoon type of dealies. It was great.
2010, 2011's feeling.
In a time BC before children, where we could just sit around and be lazy and watch movies all day long and play video games and stuff.
And they've played the video game. I don't know if they've seen the movie, but they've listened to the music and they've played the game.
So. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, so I have fond memories of watching it with him, if nothing else. And so that will probably get me to watch anything else that comes out.
Well, let's make a new fond memory right now of watching the trailer. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, play. And on play, we will all press play at the same time. Are you all ready?
Ready.
Listo.
All right. 1, 2, 3, play. So fast.
It is. Oh my gosh.
It's funny. I felt like reacting, but also I didn't want to interrupt because everything was happening so quickly and it was so loud. I'm like, I didn't want to talk over anything. But there are a couple things that I have right off the bat. So it feels more anime than I was expecting it to feel. Because I know they even had that little animation thing back when the movie came out, and that still it's felt very American style. This does not. at all. Like they slightly changed the character designs a bit. I think they're less round than they are in the comic. From what I can see, they're a little bit more jagged. They kind of have like a Gynex / Studio Trigger feel. If you think of like Panty and Stocking or something like that. Like I'm getting Panty and Stocking vibes up the ass with this version of the.
That's a weird way to say that.
No, that's the perfect way to word it. If you've ever seen it, I can feel you on that, Jammer.
Yeah.
Oh no, I watched it. You wouldn't stop harassing me about it.
I told you once, and then you said, "I'm gonna watch that," and then you watched it.
No, this is both of you. This is both of you. No, this is
both. What does that
mean?
mean?
This is the royal you and Kyle. Like, have you watched it yet? What'd you think? Have you watched it yet? Fuck, I guess I'm gonna watch it.
No, I mentioned it once, and he said I'm gonna watch it, and then the next time I spoke to you, you'd watched it. I didn't. Kyle was filling the gaps.
That's not how I remember it.
It was worth it though, right?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah,
it's totally great.
And we're getting a sequel.
Are we really?
From Trigger at that.
Yep.
What? Why does somebody tell me these things?
I don't know.
You're usually the person that tells everybody else.
That's why. But yeah, I like the energy of this. I like the movement. I guess the dynamic camera movements they have. They mentioned Science Saru. I don't know any other Science Saru anime apart from what they did for Star Wars Visions, to be perfectly honest. So to me, that just looks like Trigger all the way. But whatever. It looks fun. Has that energy that we got from the movies. It still feels very much like the movies. They got the entire cast back, which is great, and I'm excited to see how this turns out. So yay, we get the full, we get the actual real ending of the story now. We don't get that movie ending. So what do you think, Jonesy?
I'm really excited about it. It looked very kinetic, very dynamic. So like with the camera angles moving as fast. Like one of the things I love about this was the music. So the music for this trailer was really getting me into it. Again, with the speed of what I was seeing. I'm excited. Like I love that they were able to get the entire voice cast back. I love that Edgar Wright is involved in this again. So that makes me feel like he seemed to be somebody that really understood what he wanted to pull from the comic book and put it into this. So if he's involved in this, and the fact that it's a show, like a series, that they're going to do this for a season or however many to tell the story to its fullest, all have me really excited for this. So it looks like a lot of fun.
Luis?
Any ideas why they're not doing this as a live action? Why are they doing this as a cartoon? Or as
to be as faithful as possible, probably.
To be as faithful as possible, and also just because they've done it in live action already. And they probably also want the main cast back, but it's like 15 years later, so they're just like,
What are you saying? That Michael Cera doesn't look like he's 15 anymore?
It's true, he does not. Even though he's supposed to be, 22.
Oh my gosh.
He's an adult.
I recognize the t-shirt in there.
What? Which t-shirt?
It's the one. Is it the Punisher? Yeah, is it? It looks like the Punisher t-shirt.
So the three that I have, there's one that says 0. There's one, and that's black. There's a red one with a base on it and a circle. Kyle, don't say anything. And then there is another one that has the Punisher. So like the 8-bit Punisher logo.
Yeah.
And that one's black with a white trim on it.
I think we both have. No, you shouldn't. I think we both have. You have no. Listen, as the person who primarily does laundry in the house, you may not have any more t-shirts. Okay, well then you have to get rid of some more of them, or give some more of them to the children. So yeah, I think we both have.
I just imagine one of your daughters with like a giant shirt and like scraping across the ground. Do you just give them?
That's
shirts?
how they. That's
exactly what happens.
Literally what they do. And they love it. They think it's hilarious. So like one of them has my Fantastic Four t-shirt that like comes down to their knees. I'm like, why are you wearing my clothes? Get the fuck out of my clothes. What are you doing?
That's my t-shirt. That's my t-shirt, actually. You bought yourself a bigger one. Because your biceps wouldn't fit into the first.
They look the same on those children. I can't tell which
they do. They absolutely do. But that was actually my Fantastic Four t-shirt.
Sure,
but I think you have a black 0 t-shirt. I think I have a dark blue one. And then I think we both have Punisher t-shirts. But yes, I digress. I recognize the t-shirt, and I couldn't hear the music for some reason, but I am excited about the music because I do think that I kind of like it. And yeah, like I said, I'll watch it. Trailers don't really do anything for me most of the time. I'm going to watch it anyway because that's what's on the TV, or that's where we're going that night. It's not really that big of a deal to me. But it does look good. It looks well done. Hopefully the rest of it looks
Awesome.
as good.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. And I'm just interested to see who's how it turns out. I want to see the whole story executed, and it looks like it'll be a good time. Let's move on to the next story. It's kind of like just a gateway to a bigger discussion, and that is New York Film Festival is going to have Hayao Miyazaki's latest movie, the Boy and the NIF. Do people call it NIF? I've never heard that.
People call the Toronto International Film Festival TIFF. So
I've never heard anyone call it NIF.
NIF.
Knife.
Today,
Knife is
right
cooler.
Here.
Sounds nifty.
The boy.
I don't know if New York needs that smoke.
The Boy and the Heron. The Boy and the Heron is the name of the movie, or the Japanese version is How Do You Live? And I don't know why it's called that, but this is a very interesting movie because he's been working for God knows how long on this thing, Miyazaki specifically, and they made this interesting approach where it's like, we're not going to have any ads. We're not going to have any trailers for this. We're just going to throw it out there and then see the world. And then later on, Miyazaki's like, I'm kind of worried about it. I'm like, bitch, you should have let the marketing do their marketing thing. What is wrong with you, piece of shit? And the movie is coming out. It's done. So this is actually one of the problems I have with this is going to become a weird problem with Anime News Network as a source of news, because they have this article and it's full of information of how it's done. I don't know if that's good because I don't know the Japanese market, like how would they normally sell tickets. And so they say, oh yeah, they sold over 1 million tickets and earned $13.2 million in their first 3 days in Japan. Is that good? I don't know. It doesn't tell me if it's good. And then it says it sold about 1.35 million tickets and earned over 2 billion yen. That means nothing to me. Anime News Network.
So what you're saying is,
give me context.
You're looking for an editor-in-chief job in Japan?
Well, I know they purposely write these articles as objectively as possible. And I think in adding those context things, it just pulls away from the objectivity. So it's been a problem I've had for them since the year 2000 or 1998.
But all you would be doing to fill that in are like facts.
I'm
right?
just letting
reference.
You know. I'm just saying.
I'll say,
but it's still just as objective if you say like for reference, this film, which is the highest grossing film, blah blah blah.
Well, Jammer, just for a little bit of context, whenever I've been researching box office for Daily Cog, the dollar strength of the dollar and yen to each other really affects how much money it makes, because we do everything in US dollars, right? So tickets sold is like a really, I can't remember off the top of my head, is 1 million tickets that big of a deal or not, but that's the best way to kind of go with Japan. And then you kind of have to look at, because again, what the dollar is today or what the yen to the dollar is today is way different than when Spirited Away came out, different than, last year's or earlier this year with Suzume. But yeah, check tickets. That's my
Makes
tip.
sense.
God damn.
Yeah,
so I guess my next question is, do you all have interest in seeing this movie? So, and NIF, as he called it, will take place in late September, early October. So over the course of a couple of weeks or so, and this movie will be there. I'm interested to see what people think of it, American audiences think of it. So Jonesy, are you interested based on having seen almost nothing from this movie?
Yes. I like Ghibli films, right? So we've watched quite a few as a family. So we watched As a family, we watched Howl's Moving Castle. We watched Porco Rosso. We watched some of Princess Mononoke. We watched Spirited Away. I'm sure I'm missing something else in there, but we watched quite a few, and the kids liked them. So, like, just from the perspective of my kids like that animation style and can sit for most of those films, I would want to see this just to see what they do.
Larice?
Yeah,
Have you heard of this
I would
movie
agree.
before? The Heroine?
I have not. What?
No,
I
at the
have
beginning, like Kyle
The
and his
Heron.
pronunciation of Heron.
The Heron, yeah.
Boy and the Heron.
Boy and the Heron. Yeah, I would agree with Brandon. I don't think that I know anything. I don't know anything about this at all. But if you say Studio Ghibli, then I recognize that. And so,
I forgot Totoro.
Totoro. Yeah, we've seen a ton of them. I think I've liked most of them. They can be a little slow for me sometimes. So it's not something that
I never finished The Wind Rises.
Jump at. I don't think I've seen that one. But yeah, they tend to be kind of slow. It might be one that I end up falling asleep on, but I'll at least attempt to watch it, but it's not something that I'm gonna like run out, and I'm not dying to see it or anything.
So as far as what this is about, the story takes place during World War II. So it says after Mahito loses his mother during the fire bombings of Tokyo, he and his father move to the countryside. There, Mahito's father gets remarried to his late mother's pregnant sister.
Oh.
Okay, his father gets married to his late mother's pregnant. Oh my, okay. As Mahito struggles with his situation, he encounters a talking heron and enters another world based on a promise that he can meet his mother again. Another problem with this is I don't know what the audience is for this movie, because I know for Wind Rises was an adult movie. It was made for adults. And I don't know if he's still gearing up toward that, or if it's going to be a family-friendly affair at this point. I mean, it sounds like it based on all, like, you know, the marriage to each other. It's going to be a family affair, but like, I don't know what to expect in terms of tone and style. That image that is a part of the article makes it look like it could be more family-oriented, but I just can't tell.
I don't know.
So, but I definitely want to see it either way, because, you know, it probably is his last movie, but then again, who knows I don't know if he'll live to make another movie. I don't think he'll stop making movies, but I don't know if he'll be around to make another one. I'm just being real.
Yeah, that,
you know what's funny?
Got real dark.
So as you started reading that description, I was thinking about that Dan Harmon article that I sent you about the hero's journey. And so I started tracking in my mind the circle of like, oh, here's the part where something fantastic happens. Here's the part where he starts to leave the normal world and cross over. And I was like, God damn it. Like, I don't know if my brain can snap out of this now. Just seeing that pattern.
If you want to hear about like other structure, a good book is Christopher Vogler's The Writer's Journey. So that was, I read that in film school. So
I'll add it to the list.
Writer's Journey. There you go. I haven't read up on Dan Harmon's story circle, so I don't know how that compares to the hero's journey, so to speak. But essentially what the Writer's Journey book is it makes the hero's journey a lot more accessible, because the way Joseph Campbell wrote it was impenetrable. I don't care what Lucas says. It's very boring. Very, very boring how it's written. So it's broken down in actual ways that is, you know, actionable, which is great.
I mean, if anything, I feel like he did a really good job of crystallizing that impenetrability when he started talking about trade federations and like the bureaucracy of a trade war and all of this stuff. Like, so I feel like he did the thing for you, so you know.
That's
so
fair.
Understand.
You're right. That's my bad. That's my bad. Anyway,
what else we got?
I think that's it. That's all. That's it. That's all we got. That's all she wrote on this episode of Breaking Geek Radio. Thank you so much for joining. Jonesy, do your thing.
Well, dear listener, if you like what you heard, do all the socials. Like, rate, comment, subscribe, share. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, like, how do you feel about Ghibli films? And if you saw Blue Beetle, jump on Discord. Let us know what you thought. we would definitely appreciate it. We love interacting with you, dear listener. You specifically. You. If you think I'm talking about you, then it's you.
Right.
Check out
John.
Yeah. Jaime. I don't know. So yeah, do all that stuff. If you like all of the other stuff that we do, be sure to check out LRM Online as well as our YouTube channel and the Genreverse Podcast Network. It's a good time. Other than that, we will catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna. Don't get any onion.
Bye.
Plug the what? What are we plugging?